Charles Jenner. B. Cannes, 1878, D. London, 1952. Charles Jenner is best known for his urban street scenes, paintings of buildings, and landscapes. He grew up in France, where he studied art and worked in an architect's office, before settling in London in 1910. His paintings showed the dilapidated corners of his adopted city, as well as its color, bustle, and brashness. Jenner was good friends with fellow modernists Spencer Gore and Harold Gilman before he arrived in London, and in 1911 he became a founding member of the Camden Town Group. By this time, Jenner had established a distinctive style, using thick regular brushstrokes to create a heavily textured surface and a sense of solidity. This style changed little, and he was the main upholder of the Camden Town tradition after World War I. Gardens along Victoria Embankment. Jenner creates a bold, lively pattern by reducing forms to flat blocks of color with curved outlines. The clouds serve to frame the top of the picture, while the shrubbery's strong tonal contrasts help pull the eye towards the center. 1912, Oil on Canvas, 66 by 46 centimeters, Anthony D'Offi Gallery, London, UK. Spencer Gore. B. Epsom, Surrey, 1878, D. Richmond, Surrey, 1914. Spencer Gore was a central figure in British post-impressionism. He painted a wide range of subjects, including, like his Camden Town contemporaries, urban and music hall scenes and figures in interiors. Between 1896 and 1899, Gore studied at the Slade School of Fine Art in London, where he met Harold Gilman, who became a close friend. In 1905, he visited Walter Sickert in Dieppe and persuaded him to return to London, where in 1911 Gore became president of the Camden Town Group of artists, which formed around Sickert in North London. He was influenced by his friend Lucien Pissarro, whose broken brushwork impressionist technique he adopted. However, Gore was best known for using boldly simplified forms and large, flat blocks of color in bright, decorative patterns. Spring in North London. Too Houghton placed the pinks and yellows of this rooftop scene are typical of Gore's palette. They contrast with the bluer shadow tones, creating an air of optimism. Dabs of sap green capture the tree in first leaf. 1912, Oil on Canvas, 51 by 41 centimeters, Whitworth Art Gallery, Manchester, UK. Vanessa Bell. B. London, 1879, D. Charleston, Sussex, 1961. Born Vanessa Stephen, Bell was a founder of the Bloomsbury Group. In 1904, she and her three siblings, including writer Virginia Woolf, moved to 46 Gordon Square, in Bloomsbury, London, from where Bell ran the Friday Club meetings of artists. Bell's own painting, initially full of bright, bold designs, grew increasingly abstract. By 1914, it was entirely non-representational, influenced by the theory of significant form, espoused by her husband Clive Bell and her friend Roger Fry. This theory stressed the preeminence of form over subject. The simplicity of her art is also evident in her textile designs for Fry's Omega workshops and her book jackets for Virginia and Leonard Woolf's Hogarth Press. A Bathers in a Landscape. Bell produced this screen for Roger Fry's Omega workshops, which designed ceramics, textiles, dresses, and furniture. The simplified, outlined figures are influenced by Matisse. 1914, Gouache, Private Collection. Christopher Richard Wynne Nevinson. B. London, 1889, D. London, 1946. Christopher Richard Wynne Nevinson was a British pioneer of Futurism, see page 428. In 1912, he met many of the leading lights of the Futurist movement, including Gino Severini, and first used their broken plane techniques to depict tube trains, traffic, and crowds in London. At the start of World War I, Nevinson worked as a Red Cross ambulance driver. His paintings of the war are bleak. He uses the futurist lines of force to help show a relentless conflict performed by dehumanized soldiers. When he received an official commission to document the aerial fighting, his vision softened and he depicted fields and beautiful patterns beneath the plains. In 1919, he renounced Futurism and began to paint more naturalistic pictures. However, these were still distorted with lively, angular lines. La Mitrailleuse, unlike the Italian Futurists, Nevinson was quickly disillusioned by World War I. This picture, named after the machine gun, does not have the energy usually associated with futurist paintings. Instead, soldiers are shown trapped in a tight, claustrophobic composition under a barbed wire sky. Reduced to a series of angular planes, they have no individual characteristics, and seem to have become machines. 1915, Oil on Canvas, 61 by 51 cm, Tate, London, UK. Stanley Spencer. B. Cookham, 1891, D. Cookham, 1959. One of the most individual British painters of the 20th century, Stanley Spencer exhibited at the Second Post-Impressionist Exhibition of 1912 in spite of the disapproval of his tutors at the Slade School of Fine Art. In World War I he served as a medical orderly and an infantryman. At his first solo exhibition in 1927 he showed The Resurrection, Cookham, a vast painting in which the dead awaken in the churchyard of his home village on the Thames in Berkshire. This mixture of the visionary and the everyday was typical of Spencer, and has been compared to William Blake and the Pre-Raphaelites. In 1931 he completed a series of murals for a chapel in Berkeley, commemorating the dead of World War I by juxtaposing scenes of the daily life of soldiers with a massive image on the end wall of the dead taking up their crosses. Spencer brought a precise technique and observation to his landscape paintings, which he frequently found easier to sell than the religious works on which his fame rests. He was knighted in 1958. The centurion's servant based on the New Testament story, Spencer had originally intended to provide a second painting showing the arrival of Christ. He placed the scene in the maid's bedroom in the attic of his home in Cookham and was inspired by his mother's account of villagers praying around the bed of a dying man. When first exhibited, the picture was misread as children frightened by an air raid. 1914, Oil on Canvas, 115 by 115 cm, Tate, London, UK. Gwen John. BHAVR4RDWESD, Pembrokeshire, 1876, D. Dieppe, 1939. Gwen John was one of the foremost British artists of the early 1900s. In contrast to her flamboyant brother, Augustus, she led a reclusive life and had only one solo exhibition in her lifetime. At her death, she was largely unknown, but her reputation revived in the 1960s. John's work consisted mainly of quiet, contemplative studies of women and girls in interiors, but she also painted the simple, unadorned rooms she lived in, suffused with soft light. These have been read as self-portraits. She also created stark, uncompromising female nudes, painting her models and poses previously considered inappropriate for a female figure. At the beginning of her career she painted in glazes, transparent layers of paint, with flowing brushstrokes, often on large canvases. However, she later perfected a style using dabs of dry, opaque paint in small, intimate pictures. These paintings have a muted palette and wonderfully subtle transitions of tone. Lifeline. 1884 her mother dies and she moves to Tenby. 1895–98 studies at Slade School of Fine Art, London. 1904 settles in Paris. 1911 moves to Meudon, on the outskirts of Paris. 1913 converts to Catholicism, saying, "My religion and my art, these are my life." 1926 holds her only solo exhibition, at the New Chano Galleries, London. 1939 dies in Dieppe. A lady reading Gwen John was deeply spiritual, and this painting is full of religious overtones. The figure shown in full length with long, loose hair, reading by a window is similar to the depiction of the Virgin Mary in many Northern Renaissance pictures of the Annunciation. John wrote that she originally wanted to base this woman's head on an Albrecht Dürer painting of the Virgin. 1909–11, Oil on Canvas, 40 by 25 cm, Tate, London, UK. Closer look. Strong contrast. The curtain's bold color and pattern provide a strong contrast with the subtler colors in the rest of the painting. Its curved shape, however, is echoed in the face and skirt of the model. In 50 years' time, shall be known as the brother of Gwen John. Augustus John, 1942. In context. Slade School of Fine Art at the end of the 19th century, London's liberal, fee-paying Slade Art School was the preeminent art school in Britain. Walter Sickert, Harold Gilman, Spencer Gore, Christopher Wynne Nevinson, Duncan Grant, and Augustus and Gwen John all studied there. At the Slade School of Fine Art, life drawing was placed at the center of teaching. Women as well as men attended life classes. Augustus John B. Tenby, Pembrokeshire, 1878, Dfordingbridge, Hampshire, 1961. Augustus John, younger brother of Gwen, was one of the most gifted artists of his generation. In the 1890s, he established his reputation as a brilliant draftsman at the Slade School of Fine Art. By the 1900s, influenced by post-impressionists, he was making bold, colorful paintings, especially of figures in the landscape. John's lifestyle was as colorful as his painting. He drank hard, womanized, and grew a long beard. Intrigued by gypsy culture and the Romany language, he lived in caravans with his wife Ida, Mistress Dorelia, and his children from both partners. After World War I, John became Britain's leading society portraitist, but as his fame grew, his creativity declined. Lifeline. 1878, born in Tenby, Pembrokeshire. 1894, enrolls at Slade School. 1898, wins Slade Prize for Moses and the Brazen Serpent. 1899, first one-man exhibition at London's Carfax Gallery. 1914, becomes official war artist for Canadian Army. 1928, elected to Royal Academy. 1961, dies in Fordingbridge, Hampshire. The Marchesa Casati, like John, the Italian heiress Lisa Casati led a licentious life. Here, John portrays her as a glamorous yet slightly sinister character. 1918-19, oil on canvas, 96 by 67 centimeters. Art Gallery of Ontario, Toronto, Canada. Dorelia and the children at Martigues. Unlike his sister Gwen, Augustus usually painted his figures in the landscape. This work, almost a sketch in oils, is typical of his exuberant style. The bold, flat colors and outlined figures show the influence of Paul Gauguin and Henri Matisse. 1910, oil on panel, 23 by 33 centimeters, Fitzwilliam Muscombe, Cambridge, UK.